Yo, what's up? It's your boy Shotgun Shogun, and developer notes came out. Now, there were a lot of people who threw around some ideas the other day of like who they wanted to see. Solitaria was one of them. We're kind of getting a Solitaria buff in the form of, well, not Solitaria, but the other Solitaria. A lot of interesting stuff. I actually did think that they were going to buff Mediocre Quirk, but we also got a Euphine buff, BBK, which I think is kind of interesting because they said that there was an issue. People were talking about this issue with BBK's S3 and how they were going to have to like ML selector, all that stuff. Boom, BBK got a buff. Now they're not going to do anything with it. They'll end up fixing it and in there. And Zealot Carmine Rose alongside of, Ida and stuff like that. Black Hand of the Goddess and Shepard of Chaos are also getting a buff in here. But first off, let's talk about Mediator. I keep wanting to call him Meteoric. But Mediator Quirk. So previously, he was supposed to be this warrior that came in and was supposed to help you against like control. He's going to be kind of like a support warrior type deal. Unfortunately, his damage was garbage. His kit really wasn't that good. But now he's going to lay waste to Angel of Light Angelica. Now, I still don't think that he's going to do a lot of damage, but I do think that as a support, he's going to be phenomenal. And I think that too many people overlook support. But anyways, previously, Retribution before, dash towards the enemy to attack, increase combat readiness of the ally, except for the caster with the highest combat readiness by 10% up to 15%. Damage dealt is increased proportional to the caster's max health. Now, this is going to increase the combat readiness of the caster by 10 to 15%, and the ally, except for the caster with the highest combat readiness, by 15%. So not only is he going to be pushing himself forward, he's going to be pushing somebody else forward as well. Now, this means that I think you're going to want to lean towards like a speedy, bulky Quirk. Not really too worried about the amount of damage because he's going to be there to be enabling other people and turn cycling lots and lots of people. I think this is going to be really, really big on his S1. Now, immediately people are going to be like, throw him in a counter set. No, don't do it. Balance of power. Previously, attacked all enemies with his power and decreasing attack for 2 turns and granting barrier to all allies for 2 turns. Now it's going to be dispelling all buffs before decreasing attack for 2 turns and granting barrier to all allies for 2 turns as well. Now let me show you. I was in the middle of building Luna. Hold on. Let's take a look here at his skills right now. So right now it doesn't remove any of that. This is also on a 3-turn cooldown, meaning that every 3 turns you're gonna just be stripping buffs off of people. That's gonna be real big. That's a very fast cooldown to dispel all buffs on an enemy. Which, yeah, and attack, and you give barrier. So this is going to be, the thing is though, Operator Cigarette, kind of easy into this team. Damage and barrier strength is going to be increased on that. And from what I understand, the barrier was already pretty good. I'm definitely going to be building this guy though. But anyways, his last one, and this is the one that is going to put Angelica in the ground. Restores balance that has been destroyed, dispelling all debuffs from all allies and granting increased attack and immunity for 2 turns. This is also going to increase combat readiness of the caster by 50%. So that means that after he uses it, he's already going to be back up near the middle of the pack. And if he's already speedy, he's going to be going again, and then you're going to be able to S2, and then you're going to be able to S1. It's going to be big cycling on this guy, in my opinion. But increases combat readiness. When this skill is available at the start of the turn, decreases debuff duration on the caster by 1 turn. Now, this means that the 1 turn silence from Angelica gonna be gone. Any 1 turn stuns from Caesarea gone. And then that means that he's gonna just be like, boom, all of my allies, and then I'm gonna be able to cycle back through. I'm gonna be able to put a shield on people. Boom, easy peasy. Now, let's see what they have to say. Mediator Queric was initially designed to be a warrior capable of protecting allies. However, far too high stats for the hero were required. After this adjustment, Mediator Queric will increase his own combat readiness to take a turn earlier and dispel enemy buffs with the balance of power. The strength of barriers and the damage of balance of power are increased for better performance in battle. So we'll see what the increase is on that. Natural Restoration will now increase combat readiness of the caster by 50% and decrease the debuff duration of the caster by 1 turn under a condition, obviously easing the need for to set proper equipment, meaning that you don't have to build him 300 effect resist in order to shut down any like 1 turn debuffs, right? Any sort of stun, any sort of disable, gone, and then he is going to be able to get a turn. So I'm thinking like a 250 255 ish tanky, and you're good, and he's just support, really. That's my opinion anyways. But let's talk about my sad elf waifu Ida. When she came out, I was pretty excited about her. I thought she was going to be another Dizzy, but really just didn't do much. But anyways, let's take a look here. Or not a Dizzy, I forget who I thought she was supposed to be. Somebody's gonna be like, she's not a Dizzy at all. But anyways, attacks the enemy with shards of ice. With they're taking away the unhealable and they're adding in defense break. 75% chance, but it's only a 1 turn. So unless you're going and then following up immediately afterwards, 1 turn defense break kind of sucks. You have to pick and choose who you want to go into. You want to make sure that you're hitting somebody where you can take advantage of that defense break if it's only a 1 turn defense break, right? Cold Snap attacks all enemies with explosion of ice, dispelling 2 buffs before decreasing combat readiness by a random amount between 15 and 40%. This is also going to give her a skill nullifier and grants an extra turn on Soulburn. Previously, this only dispelled 1 buff, and the decrease was 5 to 20%, and then a critical would decrease the combat readiness by an additional 10%. So they took away the critical requirement, added more to the top end, an extra 10% to the top end. A 40% pushback is huge. Even a 15% is pretty big. 40% is huge, and she gets a skill nullifier. The Soulburn previously was reduced it by 2 turns. Now you can just take that extra turn. Boom, easy peasy. Now absolute zero. Now is Cold Snap. Because previously you had to determine, do you want a cold snap or do you want an absolute zero, right? This way you can cold snap extra turn into absolute zero, and absolute zero release energy to attack all enemies with up to an 85% chance to stun for 1 turn and increase combat readiness of all allies by 20%. When an ally uses a non-attack skill and this skill is available, increase combat readiness of the caster by 20%. Now, I've already seen people talking about using her alongside of Ran because he's going to S2. That's going to push her forward. He's going to defense break. She can either just come right into the S3, or if you want to use your souls, you can S2, do damage, push them back, and then stun them when they're further back. So realistically, she is going to be pretty good. The big thing is, right, is it's just kind of control. I don't know how the damage is going to be. Control. You know how control can be. You either get your PhD or you 15% and Jamal. But anyways, Ida was designed to be a team supporter by stunning all enemies and increasing their combat readiness while increasing combat or allies combat readiness. However, her speed and the actual performance of her skills did not meet expectations. In order to address the issue, we have changed Cold Snap to dispel 2 buffs and increasing far more, you don't need to put much in there, just far more combat readiness of enemies. When an ally uses a non-attack skill and Absolute Zero is available, this skill increases combat readiness of Ida, enabling her to take the next turn faster. When you have enough souls, you can use the change Soulburn and Absolute Zero to maximize the effectiveness of these skills. So there you go. That was pretty much what I had expected. So I think the changes are going to be pretty good on that one. Euphine. I'm not too sure why they're buffing her, but anyways, Dragon's Charge. Before it hits the enemy with a finishing blow, dispelling all buffs and stunning for 1 turn. Now this is going to do the same thing, but it's going to increase the effectiveness of the caster for 2 turns. It's also going to have a 1 turn additional cooldown. Soulburn extends duration of buffs granted by this skill by 1 turn and grants an extra turn. So you can S3 into S2 if you want to Soulburn. And I like the extend the duration of the buff, because a lot of times when you just take an extra turn, you waste a turn of that buff. I hope this is something they do more in the future. But then you can go into Dragon's Charge, hits the enemy with a, oh wait, this is the updated version. Oh, okay, so it's literally just the same thing. It's going to increase effectiveness. And 1 turn cooldown. So all they did was just change the S2 so that you could S2 into S, or S3 into S2, with increased effectiveness for potential strip, potential whatever it is that you want to do here. Even though Euphine is capable of inflicting very much damage and a variety of effects, players were not able to use her core skill Dragon Charge as often as needed. The other thing too is if you take the extra turn, it's going to give you even more cooldown on S3. So there you go. It increases the effectiveness for 2 turns. We expect the skill to be available more often and inflict more damage throughout battles. Effectiveness increased by this way will also help Double Slash and Dragon's Roar hit enemies better. I don't think that this is what she needed. I don't think that this is really, I mean, I guess this way, since it'll be up more often, you can build her more of like a grass bruiser. Because you'll have it up more often, you'll be able to dish out bigger damage. Maybe, I don't know how I really feel about this. Somebody in the comment section, if you're hype about that buff, let me know, because I'm not feeling it. BBK. Okay, so this is like a big overhaul of BBK. So previously, Sequential Cutter quickly strikes the enemy with a sword, recovering health proportional to the damage dealt. Caster's combat readiness increased by 50% when the enemy is defeated. Now, it's going to do the same thing, except it's going to increase the combat readiness of the caster by 15%, and when the enemy is defeated, increases the combat readiness of the caster by an additional 35%. So you're going to get 15% base. If you kill somebody, 50%. Fantastic. I like that they split that apart, because a lot of times it was counter, bruiser, evasion, BBK, right? So this will help out. Cursed Sword. Before, as health decreases, attack, defense, and speed increases. Now, it does the same thing, except at the start of the battle, grants immortality to the caster for 1 turn. Now, you might be thinking, yo, this is insane. It's just going to get stripped off. It's going to get stripped off. There's so many people that remove buffs that this immunity, or immortality, is not gonna stay there for very long. Might be good for PvE. I don't know, but if you're thinking of running like a 102 speed counter degen BBK and relying on immortality, not gonna make it. Not gonna make it, in my opinion. All right, Blade Art Dragon. This is the S3. Attacks all enemies, sacrificing 20% of the caster's health and increases the caster attack of the caster for 2 turns. Grants the caster an extra turn when an enemy is defeated. Cannot trigger a counter attack. Now this is big because you don't want to get counterattacked, right? You don't want to go do this into a Rem or a Violet or, you know, an ML Ken or any other number of counterattack things. So this will be really big. You get the increased attack. So that's pretty solid. I think that that's going to be good. I like the changes. I think that like a degen counter build will be pretty good on her. But I don't think that's going to make her, you know, a meta character at all. You might see her maybe on some defenses somewhere. But anyways, the main features of Bloodblade Karen are a trait that she increases her stats and her health as her health decreases, and Blade Art Dragon that inflicts a great amount of damage to all enemies. However, it was difficult to keep her up on the battlefield after the health drops once. After the health drops, as her health drops. Cursed Sword has been modified to grant the caster immortality for 1 turn at the start of the battle, saving the hero from powerful attacks at the very beginning of the battle. Blade Art Dragon will also increase attack of the caster while preventing any counterattacks from the enemies. Additional Sequential Cutter will increase combat readiness more, enabling the hero to take turns more often. The effect of Cursed Sword will now reflect her health more sensitively, and the decrease in health by Blade Art Dragon will apply on Cursed Sword immediately. So there we go. The issue that they had with the S3 taking the 20%, not triggering the passive is fixed right there. No ML selector. RIP anybody who thought that that was going to happen. Zealot Carmine Rose. Previously, Order Rune, when attacking, increases effectiveness by 20% if our target is an Earth Elemental hero. Now, after using Vampirism, has a 100% chance to increase combat readiness of the caster by 5%. 5%, really not huge, but hey, you know what? A bit better than just Earth Elemental hero. I think that they kind of realized that pigeonholing people into this, like, oh, you're good against this type of character, this element, not going to make it. Disease Rune before had a 60% chance to make unhealable for 1 turn when attacking an Earth Elemental hero with Vampirism. Now it's just going to be for any target. 60% chance to inflict unhealable for 1 turn when attacking the target with Vampirism. Previously, Wedge Rune, gonna get rid of the elemental hero thing here. When attacking, increases effectiveness by 30%. Now, when the caster's health is 50% or more, when using Spiteful Annihilation, has a 100% chance to increase effectiveness of the caster for 2 turns before the skill effect. Now that is pretty big because it's before the skill effect. So you can get better, you don't have to put as much effectiveness on there, right? Previously, Trust Rune, when buffs are successfully dispelled by Spiteful Annihilation, increased combat readiness of the ally except for the caster with the highest attack. Now it's going to be the ally and the caster. So that's going to be pretty solid. We'll see how it goes, right? Runes will be adjusted so that she be more effective in different game modes. We've erased the conditions required to activate rune effects. So there you go. Now let's talk about the artifact balance adjustment. Black Hand of the Goddess. Previously, the caster's critical hit chance and critical hit damage increased by 24% at the start of the battle. Effect decreased every time down to 12%. Now it's going to be down to 18%, 1.2% each time around. Shepard of Chaos, though, this one's going to be kind of interesting. As health decreases, evasion and defense increase up to 40%. Now it's going to have an extra 10% defense on top of it, as well as the health and evasion increase as it goes down. So I've already seen people talking about like a BBK with Shepard of Chaos. So we'll see how that goes. Shepard of Chaos, let's see, I want to see. After the adjustment, the artifact will increase the caster defense by 10% at all times. Okay, it doesn't say anything about when it triggers. Usually I think it was like 75% is when it starts triggering. but we'll see if they start changing that modifier, because there are a lot of things that as your health goes down, your damage goes up, stuff like that, right? So we'll see if that goes through, but I think the big winner here is going to be Mediator Coeric. He went from the bottom of the pile to a really solid Angel of Light Angelica counter, who is, you know, super cancerous. So there you go. Anyways, that's it for me, guys. If you're new to the channel, like, fave, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Let me know what you're really interested in down here, and I'll talk to you guys later. Take it easy, homies. Peace.